energy efficiency has more emphasis on it than ever in the past. The funding that has been available for energy efficiency through the stimulus funds and through the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative Fund has more than tripled the amount of money that's spent on energy efficiency in New England, and that will just tend to make it so that there will be even less growth in the future as we move out of the recession, as part of the reason why we have a slow growth of electricity coming out of the recession, in addition to the fact that a lot of the electric loads that were here are not expected to come back. Industry, manufacturing is really not expected to come back to the level that it was in the past. So very challenging times. It's really actually very exciting times, but a very difficult equation. How do you make the economics work with the environmental policies and the state mandates that you have 25% of your portfolio renewable, and that even beyond that, you reduce carbon output from generation and from the society in total by 80% by the year 2050. No small task. So the way I like to break this down is size of renewable projects, because in my opinion, this is what we have to focus on. In addition to energy efficiency, is how are we going to get more renewable power, and how can we do it at the lowest possible cost so as to minimize the future rate increases. And so there's three categories. One is large-scale renewable. Now, New England says that there's, the ISO New England says there's about 17,000 megawatts of wind potential development in New England. Now, that's an astounding number when you consider New England's about 35,000 megawatts. Now, nobody believes that they ever come close to developing that much. In fact, very, very little is happening in the area of wind development in New England right now because of the economy, because of the market prices, and also because of siting issues. So we have a long way to go in New England to meet this requirement to reduce generation from carbon and increase it radically from low carbon sources. But anyway, on the large scale renewables, one project that PSNH and our parent company, Northeast Utilities, are working on is importing power from Quebec. Now, Hydro-Quebec is a state-owned, province-owned company. 97% of the power comes from hydroelectric. So a renewable source of power for New England is to import some power from Canada, and they have an abundant supply. They have excess. They are building hydroelectric for the purpose of exportation. So it doesn't qualify as renewable by the state standards because states do not qualify large hydro. They're focused on large hydro, solar, and other sources. It is renewable by all measurements, but it doesn't count for this 25%. But nonetheless, it counts for reducing carbon output to meet greenhouse gas and climate change goals of the nation and of the region. And so we're working on that. And the nice thing about that is it's very difficult, it's very challenging, but it would be based on market prices are lower. So it would be the lowest cost renewable in New England, and it would be a very reliable source. Medium scale, I just call from 5 to 300 megawatts. Just as a point of comparison, Seabrook, which is a large plant, is 1,200 megawatts. Our largest single unit is 400 megawatts. So 5 to 300 is really a medium scale. And in New Hampshire, you may have heard about a couple of biomass plants that have been talked about in Berlin, New Hampshire. One has filed for siting approval. But aside from that, very, very little is happening in this area because financing is extremely difficult. Market prices really do not support new greenfield development of medium-scale renewables. One of the projects up in Berlin is retrofitting an existing boiler. So obviously, it should be lower cost than a greenfield cost. So not a lot happening on the medium scale. Only one project really happening on the large scale, and it's going to take years to do. So really, the action that PSNH and the state and others are focused on is small scale. It will not, small scale will not meet the climate change objective because it's just small scale. It's just not enough of it. But it's a good place to start, and with limited funding and trying to overcome low market prices, high costs of development, we're hoping to get stimulus funds to help buy down projects to an economic level so that you as consumers pay a price that is competitive in the market with the stimulus funds support, of course, which I know you're paying for as taxpayers. So that's really the focus these days. It's focused on solar. Believe it or not, solar does work in New England. It is for our perspective, it's particularly good when our peak occurs, which is on a hot, sunny day of the summer. But it is very costly. Just as a comparison, market prices now are less than 10 cents a kilowatt hour in the marketplace, all costs included. For a solar power, it's close to 30 cents and goes as high as 60 cents a kilowatt hour, just to give you a little comparison. Wind power is typically in the 20-cent range, perhaps a little bit lower. So renewable power is really an expensive source of power, yet we need massive amounts of it to meet climate change requirements that our state and regional policymakers have made. So it makes for my life to be very interesting is how do you build a lot of things when you don't need them? And how do you pay for them once you build them? So other than that, life is good. Thank you.